I would like to call the meeting of the Board of Directors for the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District meeting to order for October 28th, 2021. And Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Director Gould.
Here.
Wood.
Here.
Sheets.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
White. Clark.
Here.
Sailors.
Here.
And Kelly.
Present.
Thank you.
At this time, we should probably say our pledge allegiance to the flag. Please excuse me for not rising. And repeat after Director Delman Clark.
I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the
to
flag
the flag of the United
of the
States
United States of America,
and to the
And to the
republic
for
which
which
it
it stands,
One
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
Indivisible.
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
and
and justice for all.
for all. Thank you, Director Clark.
You're welcome.
All right. The Metro Cable announcement. The open session meeting is videotaped for Cablecast on Metro Cable 14. Replay on Sunday, October 31st at 2 p.m. and Monday, November 1st at 6 p.m. on channel 14. Webcast at metro14live.saccounty.net. We have a public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within district jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Are there any speakers, Madam Clerk?
I did not have anyone contact me in advance, but is there anyone present in the boardroom? Any public comment? Doesn't look like it. And then Art, if you could just unmute all attendees and give them the opportunity should they so choose.
Yes, attendees, you have the ability to unmute yourself. If there's anything you'd like to present to the board at this time.
Seeing none, we will proceed. Seeing none, hearing none, we will proceed. All right, moving on to the consent items. We have a consent item number, where is it? Item number 4, consent item number 4. And we will move that to action item number 3 this evening.
Mr. Chair, with that move, I make a motion, we adopt consent.
I will second it.
Okay. We have a motion by Director Gould and a second by Director Clark. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Gould.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Sheets. Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Sailors.
Aye.
And Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, then. That will cover the consent agenda, except for item 4. And then we will move to action items. We have a ratification of the resolution to extend the teleconferencing of board meetings. And this has been discussed amongst the directors at previous meetings. And I understand that we need to further ratify this in order to comply with 30 days of consideration. Does anybody else need to discuss this matter? Mr. Labra, are you interested at all? Or should we just
I'm
proceed?
interested in it. Yeah, it's just basically under the new statute that's in effect, in order to continue to do the meetings by teleconference the way we're doing it now, it has to be basically voted on and renewed every 30 days upon a discussion and based upon a feeling that there's an imminent risk to the health and safety of board members and attendees if the matter should be just held in public. So really, that's what it's up for. We're gonna have to continue to do these every 30 days until such time as the tide is turned on the pandemic. So,
Mr. Chair, I make a
Board of-
motion, we adopt the ratification of the resolution.
Thank you, Director Gould.
I second.
We have a motion and motion by Director Gould, a second by Director Sheets, I believe. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Gould,
Aye.
Wood, Sheets, Jones. Director Jones, you're muted.
aye,
Director
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Sailors,
Aye.
and Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, moving on to item 2. It is the fiscal year 2021-22 budget amendment for the general operating budget, operating fund 212A and grants fund. Ms. Castleberry?
Hello, everyone. Bringing a budget amendment to you tonight related to our fiscal year 2019 Assistance to Firefighters grants. If you remember, that is for our fireground survival training. How that contract worked is that we had a contract with IAFF to provide that training, and part of the contracted cost included some equipment related to the training. One of those things was a trailer and then also some mobile props. And because those things are technically capital assets, we had to assign a value to those things. Because we had to assign a value to those things, we actually do have to accrue tax on those items. So even though the contract was a lump sum contract, we had to accrue tax on those assets. So this amendment is to add the tax portion of that project from the A fund into the G fund. Depending on how the cost for the program goes, ultimately, we can try to recoup these costs if there are unspent funds at the end of the training program, at which point we will, Marie and I will, try to recoup those costs. So we are going to track that. But at this point, we do have to transfer those funds out of the A fund into the G fund to cover this cost. So with that, I will take any questions, but other than that, we would recommend that you approve the budget amendment. The total amount being transferred is $4,709.
Are there any questions by board members? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we adopt the 2 resolutions of fiscal year 21-22 General Operating Fund 212A and Grants Fund 212G as described.
I'll second.
Second.
Thank you, Director Gould and Director Sheets. I think you were ahead of Director Clark. So, Madam Clerk, motion's been made and seconded. Would you please call the roll?
Director Gould,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Sheets, Jones, Director Jones,
Still muted.
aye,
White,
aye,
Clark,
Aye.
Sailors,
Aye.
and Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Ms. Castleberry, will you also be handling the notice of award on the AFG 20 cardiac monitor defibrillators? Oh, that's item that we moved. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Item 3, please.
Yes, so as you know, we accepted a fiscal year 20 Assistance to Firefighters grants in September for the purchase of 90 cardiac monitor defibrillators to replace obsolete equipment. So this is a notice of award to Stryker to provide the replacement units. We were able to utilize a cooperative purchasing agreement through the SAVIC buying group, who administers the competitively bid projects and puts them out to bid, fair and open competition. It meets all the requirements, and basically you get a little more buying power that way in a cooperative purchasing agreement. So we were able to utilize that contract in order to make this bid award. The total anticipated cost is $3.7 million, with a federal share of just shy of $3 million and a district share of $748,000. We are pursuing a trade-in for our existing units. We're just waiting on approval back from FEMA. We have submitted that to FEMA. Our previous units were grant funded, and so we have to request disposition of those assets and request that we're allowed to use them as a trade-in. We anticipate that that should be approved, but we have to wait until we get that official approval back from them. Once we do receive that, Stryker will give us a trade-in credit valued at $540,000. So that will bring the total purchase price down to $3.1 million, of which our portion of that would be $121,000. Which would allow us a little bit of unspent funds on our AFG grant to pursue some additional potential AFG eligible projects for this year. So with that, we would ask that the board approve the purchase of the 90 LifePak 15 units from Stryker, utilizing the master agreement available to us via the SAVIC buying group.
Well, thank you for that. Are there any questions by directors, questions or comments? Seeing none. Oh, please, Director White.
Just a comment. I'm glad to see the district using the cooperative purchasing agreement to just ensure to our constituents who we serve that we're getting the best possible price on these units, because it's a pretty significant investment in our infrastructure to provide medical services. So I do appreciate the district's efforts to ensure that we get the best price and the trade-in value on the existing models to reduce the district's overall cost or expense of upgrading these monitors. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Director White. Are there
Mr.
any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the purchase of 90 LifePak 15 version 4 units from Stryker using the 2020 AFG award.
Thank you, Director Gould. And we have a motion by Director Gould and a second by Director Sheets, I believe. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Gould,
Aye.
Wood. Did I hear you?
Aye.
Sorry, thank you. Sheets. Jones,
aye,
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Sailors,
Aye.
and Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very well. Moving on to public hearing. Public hearing item number 1 is the division redistricting. And we have a recommendation to conduct a public hearing to review the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District's Board of Directors division lines draft map proposal. And gentleman, Mr. Thompson Fisher is here, or Mr. Jacob?
Thompson
Making a
Fisher,
presentation?
yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
I do not have a specific deck presentation for you this evening, but I do thank you for having us here. I am here to actually listen tonight and to take your feedback and public feedback on the draft map that has been provided to you for review. If there are any outstanding questions, concerns, needs, or amendments that are needed, I'm here to listen, take those in, and bring those back to redistricting partners for us to do additional work on your maps.
Thank you.
Of course.
Did everybody have a chance to review the maps that were distributed? Are there questions or comments relative to what you saw on those maps, et cetera?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Please, go ahead.
In the fact that we're in a public meeting, holding this particular redistricting meeting at this point, can you explain to me how the public is gaining access to the proposed maps? Where are they going? Where have they been able to go to take a look at the tweaks that were potentially made since the last presentation to the directors? And incorporating in any of their comments? Where does that map reside, since we don't see a deck tonight, for them to see it visually?
That
That may
would
be
be
to
on-
staff, certainly.
Yeah, so Jacob, thank you. The Director Gould, we've had on our website a redistricting title that the public can go to since we started in, I believe, September of this year. And the new map, the proposed map that the directors saw at the last meeting, was placed on the website with information about the public hearing this evening, so that they could attend should they want to or have comments. And in September, when we posted that information, it also provided contact information so people could provide their own ideas on if they had, specific redistricting they wanted done, or, information that they wanted to provide to the directors in advance. As such, I have not received anything from the public, but it has been made available on the website since we started the process.
Great. I just wanted to make sure we got that on the record, so that given this environment where we normally would have many, many copies of those floating around,
Right.
that the public has been given ample opportunity to gain access to these. So we can't be accused of gerrymandering, which seems to be in the news lately. The second issue is, were there any substantial changes made to the versions that we received in our last meeting and were asked to make comments about? Because I have not seen an updated version, if there is one, personally.
Thank you very much. That's a good question and a great point to bring up. This is actually the point at which we intake those comments. So we make sure to intake them in a public setting as much as possible, so that those amendments that you are concerned about presenting, the public also sees where those amendments might be coming from. Much as you are voicing a concern about the potential appearance of gerrymandering or appearance of some sort of gaming of the system, our goal is transparency. So in attempting those comments and feedback about any amendments or adjustments to the map within the timeline and scope of public hearings, what we're attempting to do is make sure that if there are any changes, they occur once the public has an opportunity to see what the requests are. And then that means, in more concrete terms, what you see and what you have seen is what currently exists. We have not made any changes to those drafts yet. We have not taken in, or we say ingested a lot. We haven't brought in any suggestions or changes yet, with the intent of making sure that we compile them all, we bring them all in, and we make all those changes in as open and straightforward a way as possible.
Okay, thank you for that. So I assume that what will happen is the closing of this public hearing will then close the opportunity to have conversations from the public side of this proposal. And then the directors will see a final version of the district's boundaries, of individual district boundaries, so that we can make a motion in open session for the adoption of those districts moving forward.
I believe part of that is more almost a parliamentary question that maybe should go to staff. But from an operational perspective for us, yes, the bulk of that process is what we also consider the standard process.
So can we assume in our next board packet that will be coming up to the, to our holiday season, that we will see that and be able to take action, so that moving into the next year, we will have solid district boundaries?
Director Gold, this is Jeff Fry. I'll take that. And your previous, everything you've described is our intent.
Okay.
Today, we hope to hear feedback from the directors and any public. Our intention for the next board meeting is to get those finalized, quote unquote, district boundaries to you, and then essentially adopt them at the next board meeting if this process goes tonight.
Thank you very much for that. That not only gives, I think, the directors a timeline, which I think is reflective of what we talked about 2 weeks ago, where we had a very short timeline to look at those and get feedback in. But it then also describes for the public, should they want to show up to the next meeting in whatever format, that they can do so, because these are pretty critical lines and play a big role in our voting process. And so thank you, Jeff, for that update. And thank you, sir, for giving us your feedback as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Any other comments from directors?
This is Director White, and I'd just like to make a motion that we adopt staff's recommendation for a public workshop on the district's line division mapping proposal.
I will
I
second
don't,
it.
I don't believe we needed a motion necessarily.
Then Jack,
Oh, no, it's a presentation. Yeah.
It's a
presentation.
presentation item.
President,
And
if I may,
please
can we
go
ask
ahead.
for public comments? If I think the board has asked,
Right.
provided all their comments, I would like to open it up to everybody for consideration.
Jeff, please tell me that again.
We'd like to hear or receive public comments if there are any regarding this issue.
Gotcha. So this will be the public's opportunity in the next 2 weeks to comment, et cetera. If they were concerned about this item, they may have made comments previous to this. And next meeting, is this correct? Next meeting, we will be presented with proposed maps that we're expected to vote on and approve.
Yes.
Okay.
Jeff, so tonight is.
So tonight, we'd like to receive public
Public
comments.
comments right now,
Correct.
and then we adjust from there,
Yes.
correct? Okay,
Correct.
so tonight is the public comment session.
Yes.
And then you have to
Okay.
close the public hearing.
Do we
Right.
have public comments?
Jeff, is there anyone in the boardroom, any member of the public that would like to speak?
I am looking at the group and I do not see anyone.
Okay, and then Art, could you please just unmute all of the attendees to make sure that if anyone would like to comment, they have the opportunity to do so?
Yes, attendees, you have the ability to unmute yourselves if you'd like to present anything to the board.
Looks like no comment.
Okay, then. At this time, I believe we can close the public hearing. And I would encourage anybody that's concerned with this item to stay focused on it and make comments as you are able. All right. So next meeting, we will see proposed maps and have the ability to have discussion on those proposed maps as a group and vote for approval or disapproval of them. All right, that takes care of our public hearing. Moving on to presentation items. Chief Harms, I'd like to congratulate you on 5 years of exemplary service to this district. And I believe that Director Wood is going to present your pin to you.
Thank you, President Kelly. Pleasure to be here for you doing this honor. Chief, it's hard to believe 5.5 years ago, we started our nationwide search for our chief for this organization to go forward. After a lot of candidates and a lot of hard work, we were able to lure you from Phoenix, and appreciate all the work you've done since then. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I want to highlight just a couple of things that you've done. Just so people don't forget all the work that you've done and the changes you've brought to help put your stamp on this organization. From day one, you got in, you started the station visits, and those continue to this day. And that's helped a lot from what I've seen in the conversations I've had with morale and the staff. And so that's really appreciated. The lead in getting mobile integrated health to the place it is here in this county right now. Helping to elevate our awareness of our district through your involvement with UL, the Chiefs Association of the state and national level, and also all the work you did getting us through these and continuing to go through what's been going on these last year and a half. So appreciate it. Thank you so much. And
Thank you, sir.
look forward to hearing what you have to say.
All right. From me right now? Yes, you. No, I just think that the size of the diamond in there is huge. I didn't know we got a diamond, but no, thank you all. And you know, when you look at those accomplishments, the things that we've done during the 5 years, and this has been just a blink. But it really is all the folks that are here that work in the building that deliver service every single day out there that really, all you have to do is let them go, give them some boundaries, and it has been outstanding on that side of it. But also the support from all of you on the board has been just tremendous. And I tried to meet with all of you. We've kind of stopped with COVID, but then getting back together, having conversations, and I see the passion that you all have for the district and for the service that we provide each and every day. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about, is the service. So thank you very much. Thank you.
And Chief Harms?
Yes.
The diamond for 10 years is really big. So you should stick around and see that one. Just another 5 years is all it takes. All right. Moving on to the strategic plan update. Mr. Fry.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Kelly. As you said, I'm here to present the update on the 2024 strategic plan. Before I start my comments, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Harms to kick us off here.
Thank you, Jeff. You know, with the pandemic and everything that's been going on, some days I think all we look at is just what we need to do today to get to tomorrow. Long-term planning for a little bit was about a week. And then sometimes we got out to a month. But you know, what we thought, and you all with the direction, is that we have to keep the strategic plan moving forward. It's like we just said a second ago, 5 years goes by and it's just a blink. 2 years with COVID almost coming up has gone by. So there has been things that we've been able to accomplish. In the past, we've done a retreat where we've gone through each one of these things. With the Zoom, everything else, we asked Jeff to give an overview. So to take probably 20 minutes or 30 minutes and go through the items that we have and talk about them and talk about that these are still our goals. And it's so important to reassess, go back, talk about what things have we made progress on, what things have we made progress on, and continue the strategic plan forward. So hold on tight.
Hold on tight.
Here we go.
Move fast. Art, if you don't mind, can you pull up the presentation and go ahead and move on to the next slide? But first, I just want to take a moment and just recognize the hard work of the men and women of Metro Fire. While I have the pleasure of presenting this tonight, this really is a lot of hard work from dedicated people. And it's really given me a proud moment. I hear Chief Harms at the end of every address to the membership, thank them for all the hard work. And I think putting this together gave me that view from Chief Seat. And I certainly appreciate all the work that's been done. So my approach tonight is going to be a little bit different, a little bit unconventional. You're used to this document that we created 2 years ago, which highlights each of the focus areas. And at the end has the objective stated in this table format. So I'm going to present this in a slightly different format, reorganizing it and presenting this entire thing as a planning process for organizational improvement. And for agencies, public and private, businesses engaged in service delivery, on the academic side, people talk about a golden triangle, which is a planning piece to describe how to improve service delivery. It's pretty simple. It's people, processes, and tools. And how do we describe the relationships between those three areas and put it into a better service delivery model? So I'm going to use that format tonight to take you through the strategic plan and kind of tie all this together in a kind of a continuous way. So there you have in front of you the 5 focus areas that the board focused on in the workshop. And again, we're going to apply a slightly different process and reorganize this into the people, process, and tools. And hopefully, I think it ties a lot of this stuff together for you. So next slide. I think I have it. Okay. So 3 inputs that the board described. I'm going to start with the technology piece and data integration. Really, the boards wanted us to combine that use that as a basis for strategic planning, then look at the strategic plan and financially model what that looks like. And that is our service delivery model, right? So I'm going to break down each one of these pieces first and take you through what we've done to accomplish these objectives. So really a deep dive into the technology and data integration piece here. And again, my takeaway from the board workshop was that day was the board really wants to see us to integrate technology and software in the decision-making process, and then use those technologies in our report writing, which previously has been very labor-intensive and hard to produce when the board needed the information. So to that end, I just wanted to highlight some of the softwares that we use to move this agenda forward. It's not all the software we use, but it's directly plays a part in this process. So I'm going to start with the operations side, where the board has asked for enhanced efficiencies and automation. I think that really starts with the new CAD project that is supposed to be implemented next year. The CAD folks have done a lot of homework in this project, and we're really excited about it moving forward. The legacy system is data constrained. We can only extract so much information out of it because it's an older system. So we're really excited to replace it. It'll give us more data to pull and use in some of these processes I'll describe. And that's a big step forward that we're planning for next year. Also tied to CAD delivery is the MoveUp module, which you've heard recently about. This is a predictive software that analyzes simultaneous calls, predicts apparatus movement, and then also predicts deficiencies in response. So it's a big improvement for us because our main challenge as a district is simultaneous calls and apparatus on scene. So to the extent that we can incorporate a software that can help us with that problem is a great step forward. It's not the answer, it's a part of the answer. I just want to quickly highlight the image trends piece, which is, I'm going to describe it as the RMS for the PCR and EMS side of the house. In 2021, this year, Metro migrated all RMS activity to image trend, and this has allowed us to mine data much faster. The old system required a specialized type of reporting called Crystal. We didn't have a lot of end users that understood that well here. Chief Law has taken all of this and moved it progressively forward. And to that extent has brought back Brian Benson to work on a lot of reporting issues, but also to start looking into the APOD issue specifically. And that information, I believe, is getting up to the chiefs and being used in the IMSA discussions even today. I also wanted to highlight the DECN piece. Here we have CAD-A, Atom, and Optimizer. All of these are largely predictive tools, and we've used it more here than ever. And I'll just give you 4 examples. If we added 4 new medics to the system, where should they go? If we had to brown out apparatus due to staffing issues, where would those brownouts have the least impact on the system? If we apply for a SAFER grant, where should we utilize those additional staff? And what is the best location for a new station in the Rio de Oro area? Those are just some examples of how we used it this year, and we plan to really move that forward next year in 2022. Finally, you've heard me talk about Intera. Intera is what I'm calling is an aggregator of information. So it is taking information from the CAD system, from the RMS, combining it with all other data sources we get from the county and other people. And we have a lot of information at a tip, but we can quickly run impromptu reports. It has dashboards built into it. There's operational functions and performance tools. And it's really, we think, the software of the future. As we continue to find ways to build on that, we're going to have a lot of this information quickly. I do want to make a quick note. I missed it. You see the green green text here. That specifically cross-references the objective in the strategic plan. So as you take a look at this and want to know exactly how this ties into the ultimate objective, I've cross-referenced it there in the notation. So moving on to risk reduction. Mobilize is a software program CRD uses for workflow management. It's also how they track construction inspections and also commercial inspections. Where I think is very interesting for us is Chief Barstow is working on integrating the mobilized data into the Intera product. So I'll give you a couple of hypotheticals here. Image stream text calls for home related to homelessness. We see an increase in grass fires at homelessness camps. CRD can overlay the two pieces of information and work with city and county staff to create an education program. Second example here is inspection data. Notices a number of corrections in commercial kitchens. We also see through the suppression data an uptick in commercial kitchen fires. Again, we can correlate those data sources and create an education platform to mitigate this moving forward. So I'm really excited about that piece. And I'm very excited to see where it goes moving forward. The admin support side of the software, this work has been done for a couple of years now. I think it was completed prior to this, but it does have references and uses down the line here as I report. But these were integrated in 2019, our ERP system and our EAS system. Our human resource function, we use it for budgeting. We use it for a lot of things on that side. And then finally, Asset Calc is a facility condition assessment, which has a financial component and allows us to move future construction costs and repair and replace, which is also a financial component that we need for preparing these documents. I realize I'm talking very quick and trying to move through this, so I will pause for a second. Is there any questions on the technology piece here?
Do any directors have questions regarding what Mr. Fry has covered so far? Thank you for pausing, Jeff. I think you're clear to go ahead.
So we'll jump straight into the next piece. Can you help me out with this slide? All right, I'm having troubles here. There we go. So now we have lots of data. What do we do with it? So, and I was joking here, but I hear Chief Arms in the back of my head, all my conversations with them. It's, we need to get the plan and we need to write it down. And I think, so that's what we're trying to do here, right? So I think the board recognizes the damage done to an organization when institutional knowledge walks out the door and the vacuum it creates there. So documenting these strategic plans, writing it down will ensure that we're passing knowledge to the next generation of leaders. This is as much a PDP issue and preparing the next generation as it is guiding the direction of this organization moving forward. So I'll start with the operations piece. The growth plan you've heard me talk about, it's something we've had a long time. It used to be a consultant study. I now update it every year. It's just a part of my software platform. There's also a financial component related to this and the development impact fees. So it's really the assets and the stations, everything we need to provide future service. The standard of cover is my big project in 2022. I've been talking and thinking about it for a long time. But if we execute it correctly, it should accomplish the majority of the sustainability outcome described in your strategic plan. So real quickly, the standard of cover is an all-risk assessment. It measures asset allocation in response to the benchmarks that the board standard are created, and it'll identify deficiencies in the system. So as we identify those deficiencies, we kind of give that information to the chiefs. We can talk about the additional personnel or facilities or equipment needed to fill that deficiency, and then that becomes a part of our service plan moving forward. So I'm trying to find a format and a structure for this document that works. We have a complicated service delivery system. Recently, Chief Shannon is back to help us in a new attempt to help me structure the ops side of this. You don't know what you don't know, right? I'm excited about this project. I really want to accomplish this in 2022. So the Metro Way is a cultural document. It was completed in 2020. 2021 was just not the right time, as Chief described, to roll this document out to the membership. And I believe I heard him say recently in a PDP that that's the early goal for 2022. Is that correct? Yes. And again, the command doctrine also fits into this ops strategic plan, if you will, and it's also a PDP tool for the membership. So moving to the risk reduction side, Chief Fields is hard at work at completing the community risk assessment. They have a lot of meetings about it today. It really notes the change in risk mitigation. Our organization has forever been focused on structure fires. But the environment we find ourselves in, the shift at the policy level is into all risk and natural risks. So I think we're trying to get ahead of that curve, and the CRA and the information from it will help us do that. I think we're way out in front on this one, and all the conversations we've had with some of these consultants and I've had with our federal partners back east, I think we're leading the charge on this one. So it's going to be fun to see where this goes in the next few years. And tied to the CRA is the local hazard mitigation plan and the community wildfire protection plan. Again, focusing on natural hazards. How do we mitigate these? The FEMA is throwing a lot of grant money behind these topics. It was a couple of $1 million 3 years ago. It was tens of millions of dollars last year. I think it was in the $500 million range this year. So we are trying to formulate a game plan in this area as we speak. And then moving on to the admin, besides the data integration piece I've already described, spent a lot of time working on the admin side and working on these three strategic documents: the facility condition assessment, the apparatus replacement schedule, and then the capital equipment replacement schedule are all documents that we will get integrated into the CIP. And I'll explain that here in a bit. Again, I am talking very quickly, so I will pause here and ask for questions related to strategic planning.
Are there any questions by directors? I do have one question for you, Mr. Fry. On your standards of coverage, I know that we have paid consultants hefty fees to provide standards of coverage studies for us in the past. Am I to understand you, with the help of others, are going to undertake this task yourselves this year?
I think standard of coverage come in many forms and many variations. I think fundamental to the question for us is how do we move the service forward? And I think Metro Fire is the only organization that can answer it for us.
All right.
Yes, it is a big list, and we have a lot to learn, and we need to learn how to integrate data. But once we figure it out, we'll always have that capability in-house, and we'll always be able to adjust to whatever situation we find ourselves in. So I actually, something we have to bring in-house.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Anyone else? All right, please proceed.
Moving on to the next slide. I did it. Okay. So third component, we have integrated data, we have strategic plans. Now we have to figure out how to pay for it. So in the board document, you ask for a catalog of sources and processes to access revenue. So I've essentially taken that request and accomplished it right here in one slide. So these are all the revenue sources in parentheses. It's kind of how it works. And then in the call outs are when and how we've used all of these to move forward. And I'll start with new revenues. Chief has, and we have talked about as staff about the special tax or benefit assessment to recognize the shortfall we have on our capital side. The marching orders we got about a year ago when we talked about this was we had to exhaust all our other opportunities. We had to leave no stone unturned. And then we needed the strategic planning. We had to fully encapture what the true need or cost was. So I think you can see by my presentation tonight, we're getting very close to that. And I think once we have all this information and data, then we can start to have those conversations again. The community facility district, CFD, sometimes called Mello-Roos, is an opportunity to collect dollars on the operation side, but also on the capital side. There are some pretty big downsides to this. It has to be negotiated in conjunction with new development during the entitlement process. The landowner does not necessarily have to pass this on to the end user. This was new for us. I brought it with me and had many conversations with Chief Harms and others about this. We implemented it in the Jackson Highway Corridor Plan. So 3 of the 4 landowners in that project have agreed to pay our projected shortfall on the suppression side. So to the extent that the property tax we're collecting does not cover our cost to provide the service, all the lenders agreed to put money into a pool to pay our shortfall until the shortfall clears up. And we've used financial projections to be able to run all that. Grants, happy to report I was on a phone call today with FEMA and the grants directorate, asking a lot of questions about where we go from here and what are we doing right. I think by all indications today, we are doing everything we are supposed to be doing and we do it well. So I did have a couple of questions related to future mitigation projects. And again, I think by the conversation I had today, we're well out in front on that topic. I will bring up consolidations here, and it is red. I would like to ask the board to move this. And my recommendation is to move it to the service delivery side. Now, quickly reference a conversation we had. Poor Chief Arms took one for the team when we met with South Placer to see if we can find some opportunities for efficiency and some kind of form of collaboration. A very sophisticated, smart citizen on the Placer side went to our website, found this document, and stated to the entire group on the public call there that Metro Fire, per their strategic plan, is only interested in us as a new revenue source. Chief Harms didn't have the heart to tell her that an $8 million budget really isn't going to do much for us as Metro Fire. But really, this issue is related to service delivery and finding efficiencies to create a better service. So I'd like the board to consider that. I will move on to current revenues. The development impact, well, I will start with the ad valorem, property taxes, Prop 1380, and all the changes. That's really settled law. I don't know that we're going to get anywhere with any changes there. The development impact fees are updated as of 2021. We're still in the review process. We maxed out. I added every project I could think of for the next 40 years to that thing. So I don't know that there's too much more to gain there. And then the fees and charges, the inspection fees, medic fees, inspection fees on the risk reduction side are being updated as we speak. And I know the medic fees were recently updated. So that's our current revenue piece. Future projections, I do want to point out the cost allocation plan update in 2021 is a way for us to allocate indirect charges overhead to areas of business where we do collect fees and charges. So it's like this. And the reason I bring that up here is the way I see the state moving in revenue and fees for service and charges is there has to be a direct A to B connection from the service that are provided in the cost. And most of those directives actually include or call for a cost allocation plan. So we are a little bit ahead of the curve here again. And then the CIP is something we've all talked about. I go into it in depth here in a second. So with that, let me check my notes. And again, a very dense slide, so I'll pause and ask for questions.
Once again, are there any questions by directors? Seeing no questions. Jeff, I appreciate you pausing.
Thank you, sir.
And we will move on to service delivery.
So all the planning is done. Now we're providing service. So I'm just showing you the 3 big pieces here. Obviously, the membership is the big piece and the piece we rely on the most. The facilities, apparatus, and equipment, what I refer to as the support services side of the house, plays a big piece here. And we have these 3 components working together to provide service every day. So I just want to tackle those pieces. This is specific to the CIP. And this will be in front of the board in the next fiscal cycle. And then these are the 3 components that the board identified in the strategic plan. So real quick, the real estate, we collect data sources, we combine the growth plan with the standard of cover, the facility condition assessment, the development impact fee, create a 5-year real estate plan and put it in the CIP. We replicate that entire process with vehicles, but we swap out the facility condition assessments for the apparatus replacement schedule. So as they start to time out by miles or age, we need a plan to replace them. All of this is designed to be transparent for the board and the public, and they can see all the information that we see. And then finally, we need to do the same thing with equipment. So as I understand it, the capital equipment replacement schedule does not exist today. We do know what it is. Marie's sitting here, and we were working through the development impact fee this summer. We had to identify all these components for that project. So I think this will be really easy to put together for the CIP we intend to deliver to the board next fiscal year. I do want to note here, this is a little bit about my personality. I would love to see the standard of cover complete before the CIP. It kind of makes sense, cart before the horse, right? But I think with the board, the information you asked for a couple of board meetings ago related to some aspect that you were looking at, you asked for preliminary information on the CIP. We actually moved that ahead because of that request. So we will put together the CIP. It won't have the standard of cover information, but we'll implement it in next fiscal years. So with that, I'm just going to jump straight to the member side. And really, I think this was the board's focus in the strategic plan. I think the board recognizes the membership is the most important asset Metro Fire has. It really is our service delivery mechanism. I do want to note here, for almost 2 years, we've been in crisis management mode, which Chief Harms mentioned, finding our way through civil unrest, a pandemic, now a labor shortage, and we're heading into real supply chain issues. So as Chief described, we kind of stopped everything we were doing and focused our attention on those issues. And to that end, professional development was really assigned to the training division, which was reassigned to the pandemic, and I forget the acronym. I think they were our COVID. Thank you. So they really took over the day-to-day of managing the COVID piece. So a lot of the work the board identified here was set on hold, but they have in the last couple of months started back again, and there's just a couple of highlights there for you on the slide. The health and well-being piece really became a central aspect in the last 2 months. I understand these resources have been heavily utilized, and I think the timeline for accelerating some of these programs also happened. I'm looking at Chief Harms. I know there was a lot of people needing these resources through those 18 months, and I know they were available for the membership. And finally, I'll just move on to recruitment and retention. So now we find ourselves in this labor shortage. The board is very aware of the situation. So to that end, very recently, Tim White is in the house. Say hi. He's accepted a day assignment to start tackle this. I was actually asking him a lot of questions and preparing for this presentation. I'm very intrigued. I just want to say he has a lot of good ideas, a lot of good thoughts. Having him on days around us to talk about those things and to find out how we can help him implement that. It's pretty exciting. I'm excited about it. So with that, we talked about Chief Castantini chairing the Regional Diversity Committee, the SAFER grant for new positions, and a number of other things that we're trying to use to accomplish there. So last but not least, external engagement. This is an interesting topic for me, and a conversation I was having with Chief Mitchell before we came into the room tonight. Very quickly, Little Hoover Commission, state group that studies all kinds of interesting things. They 3 years ago took up special districts as a topic. So the chairman of that group, Pedro Nava, was addressing all of us in the special district room. And the question was, what was your takeaway when you studied special districts? And his response is, special districts have a very good story. They need to figure out a way to tell it. And I think that's what the board is trying to address here with this piece. So the board has asked us to tell a story to our partners through a comprehensive plan for messaging, through a community outreach with a focus on education. I think the first thing I noticed in that was it was really the first two were assigned to the PIO, and the second one was assigned to the fire marshal. And I just want to use this next slide to show the board really what's involved with this. It is a big lift. There is a lot here. And just the complexity that we're thinking about in this task the board has assigned to us, because we all play a part. The board plays a part in this. Chief plays a big part in this. The DCs, PIO, operations, risk reduction, me and my role in the legislative side, the 2x2s. We're basically trying to take a number of topics, identify the audience, and figure out how to deliver the message. This is really going to take a coordinated effort. And the reason I bring it here is because there are simple things. We are all very good at our jobs. We cover the basis well. There are things in the gap in how we operate to accomplish the board strategy. I'm going to recommend we probably use outside help and a consultant to figure out what this means. But the conversation we were having today, simple things as how do we use data to communicate a story, and how is that story tied to a bigger objective? Something like that in itself is a 1-hour conversation, and that's not even addressed here. So I do want to note some of the things that we've done this year. PIO is brand new in the position, really focused on the day-to-day service delivery and how we provide service, establishing contacts in the media world and focus on social media. Risk reduction is really focused on the CRA and the education side of that, and that will be an education platform for us to engage all of our communities. My focus this year has been on COVID funding and the implications at the state and the federal level. And Chief has really been focused on a whole bunch of things, including the 201 rights and the IMSA issues. So those are very specific, very narrow topics that we're addressing in this platform, but I think we can do a lot more work here. So conversations that come here, I just want to address it because it is in the board's document. So I made it through, and I tried to move as fast as I could, Chief, but I hope you appreciate the update, and if there are any questions or comments, I would be happy to take them.
Directors, questions, comments? I have one. I can start it off. In that last slide that you had, Jeff,
Sir.
I think the board of directors should be on the top, and there should be an X on just about every line that is traveling horizontal there. I don't know, use the board of directors as a tool.
I appreciate it.
Just my thought.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments by directors?
Thank you, Jeff.
Anyone?
Very thorough.
All right then. Jeff, thank you very much for the effort that you put into that. It was comprehensive and concise. Thank you for your report and your presentation. It was good information. And I look forward to watching the district undertake these items and improve our delivery model and working environment for our employees. All right, anything else by any other directors? All right then. Moving on to anything from the senior staff. Everybody's good? All right. Moving on to reports, the president's report. I have nothing to add at this time. Fire chief's report. Chief Harms.
Thank you, sir. Jeff Fry, where'd you go? Come on, buddy. Come on. You did it. Come on, get up here. That's an order. So you have two systems in the fire service. You have your command system and you have time on the job. So I have to admit, I have above you as far as the organization, but you have more time than I do here.
10 days.
10 days. So like if we're making coffee, I have to make the coffee. If we're cleaning the bathrooms, I have to, but if we're making a decision, then I get to do that. So congratulations. You have your 5-year pin right here. It's a smaller diamond than mine, but I don't, again, that's what happens there. But this past 2 weeks, we've been doing what's called professional development. And the troops can either Zoom in or people have come in. And this time we've really focused on yourself along with Dave to give an update, like where's the district at and where's things are going and stuff. And the first two that we did, Jeff did a phenomenal job, and then he was on the cap to cap meeting. And so you weren't able to do the other one. We looked at each other and said, well, we can't do what he did up there. So we took the videotape and then played you on the videotape today and used the same questions that were there before on that portion of it. But I thought what was really neat today was one of the people in the audience asked, what are we going to do when we lose Jeff? And it was like, well, we're not losing Jeff. And then I offended Dave today too, because I said, they leave, and Dave may leave in a few years, and Dave's like, you're getting rid of me already? But I think, that change happens in the organization, and one of the things that you and I had talked about was our ability to write the plan down. And like when you talk about the standards of cover, and Director Kelly, you brought it up about we hired somebody. A lot of times they come in, they hire them, they give you that plan. We have ours from 2012 or something, and it's on the shelf. And the system is just so dynamic. Think about the changes that has happened since 2012 with coverage, and think about what's going to happen in the next 18 months and our ability to do that and continue forward. So you started each one of our sessions by coming and saying in the beginning, I wasn't real sure what my job was. And there was a changeover. If you guys remember, Larry Davis had left, Jeff came in, and we really did. I had came in, and it was our opportunity to figure out the legislative, the cap to cap, and how do we make these plans? How do we make these plans so that they're sustainable, long-term and stuff as we move forward? So congratulations. It's been a blink in the 5 years. We spent a lot of time together. Jeff comes by and knocks on my door and says, hey, you got a minute? And we sit and talk about this stuff or with the other deputies and stuff. So I'm not going to shake your hand because I do have a cold. Congratulations. And so step over here a little bit. There's a tradition that is in Metro, which we could care less about anything else that you're going to say thank you and all those things. But tell us something unique about yourself, Jeff, that nobody else in the place here would know about you.
Can I just run out the door and say?
No, I know you love this part of it. This is the best part of it. You knew this was coming today. You got to have something in there about you.
I was hoping you weren't going to do this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Something unique.
Something unique. I actually got pulled on stage and remained in a box, a 2x2 box, the entirety of a show at Vegas.
Really? What was the show?
I'm trying, what is the?
Inappropriate show.
Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, so it was this weird odd thing. I didn't even know what was happening. I had turned my head for 1 second. A partner who was with me had pointed me out and volunteered me for it. I tried to literally run through the back of the exit and jump, but they had pinned me in with all the bodyguards. And it was some weird magician show thing. All I know is I was in a box this big with a lock for an hour and a half.
Oh. Well, thank you, sir. You're much better than I would on that. And congratulations on your 5 years.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. I tell you what, I can't believe it's been 5 years. All right.
I get to keep going. Sorry about that. I got so excited. A number of things going on. First off, I'd like to congratulate the captains that are going to be promoted on November 1st. Brett Randall, Michael Rowland, Greg Lynch, Kyle Gordon, Taylor Lohite, Eric Satch, Tim McNew, and Jared, what's his last name? Greider. So congratulations to that group. We're looking forward for them. They're getting their assignments going out in the field on November 1st. We have an open recruitment for Fire Investigator 2, and that's both internal and external. Myself and the deputies have made just a number of station visits, going out to either having coffee or meals and sitting with the folks. As I mentioned, we finished up the first of the 3 meetings on the PDP. The training group has done one of those things from COVID is just an incredible job of being able to set up Zoom, being able to hear it, televise it out. Typically in the past for the PDP, the professional development program, people would have to come to headquarters. So we were limited on who could attend. I think we averaged about 40 connections, and a lot of those connections were stations on all 3 of them. And we're able to go through them, then videotape them and post them if somebody had a call or was off to be able to go through that. A lot of work has been going on with Parker, they said, with the cancer awareness engine, and then getting out to the county board of supervisors and taking pictures with the Rancho Cordova. Unfortunately, the turbo blew up, or it was going to be here tonight. And then one of the things, and when Jeff was going through and talking about communicating, I just think it's so important what we have been able to do with like the 2x2s. And so we had the Rancho Cordova 2x2 on the 20th, and then we just had the Sacramento County one with the Board of Supervisors. And the ability to sit down, and I'll just brag on everybody, because we all sit down ahead of time and go through and say, what are the issues? What are the things that we want to be able to do? As Jeff said, how do we tell our story? And we're getting much better at being able to take data, put data into a form that people can look at that is very easy. And probably one of our challenges is that as we look back and people want to compare to, hey, what did you do last year? Or what does that look like at 5 years ago? We got to keep doing this so that we can build it up. But like the county 2x2, and Edwards, who is now the county exec, afterwards called and commented on what a great meeting that we had. And a few years ago, I don't think I would have gotten that from the past seasons. I don't know if you would have been on it, but from the past portions of it. But it gives an opportunity for us to sit and talk. And like this last one is that there were some difficult conversations of things that we need to be able to move forward, but it really gives us a pathway to the supervisors and to the county exec. And the same thing with Rancho Cordova, being able to have those meetings and talk with their elected and with their city manager. And they're all, in the beginning, they were not there, and today they are. So again, thank you to everybody that plans those and puts them together, and for that communication and telling our story and communicating with our partners. That ends mine, unless somebody has a question for me. Chief Mitchell now with the ops report.
Thank you, Chief Harms. Welcome, Chief Mitchell.
Thanks, President Kelly. Good evening, directors. I'm here to give you your operations report for tonight, October 28th. A few items from ops. First off, we'll start with the storm update over this past weekend. I don't need to tell you all how much rain we got over that 24-hour period. It was a 250-year event. Record levels, obviously. I'm happy to report that although we had plans in place for complex incidents potentially, floodings, communications with our partners at County OES and things such as that, most of the incidents by and large were handled at either a single unit response or very low complexity. We did have a couple of incidents, but nothing long duration or high complexity as a result of that event. So we did see a significant increase, as you would expect, in non-medical responses. Typically, our balance of medical to other responses is heavily in the medical side. That flip-flopped that day, and we had some more responses for some of the things such as flooding, fallen trees down power lines and things like that. So we made it through that. And with that historic rain, I'm updating on the wildland season. This morning at 8 a.m. As a county, we have transitioned out of our peak staffing levels. So we're no longer, and really that affects what our dispatches are to grass fires. Our fuel loads here have actually, if you look around a little bit, have started some green up, which it's because of the rain that we haven't seen since, what was it, last March. So our fuels here in the valley, being those lighter fuels and the amount of rain that came, made the decision to move away from our peak staffing levels. But that doesn't mean that the equipment necessarily goes away other than 2 stations. The equipment's still in the stations. It changes our levels of dispatch for those types of incidents. As is always the case, if we need to modify those dispatches or we have a change in fuel conditions, we can reinstate what we have been doing all through summer. So that's a good thing for us. Obviously, throughout the state, we still see areas that are we're all under drought conditions still, and so we're ready to respond to those requests if we were to get those for out of area mutual aid or CFAA requests. So we're ready to go for those still. On the CERT front, we had 8 of our members that actually volunteered their time the day of the storm. They were standing by, ready for assist on any of those long duration incidents that we see, power lines down, things like that, that they have training for. So we did appreciate that. They did deploy out in the Citrus Heights area and helped us out on incidents there. Also at the beginning of October, we actually had 2 of our CERT members that reached the training to become level 2 members, which includes some additional training from FEMA, American Red Cross, a background check that allows them to function at a higher level. So if you look at CERT, that's great for us to continue to expand those abilities and those roles, allowing them to be, if there were an incident, be hired on as emergency disaster workers for any sort of event that requires that. And then finally, for the statistical piece, we ran 4,045 calls since our last report 2 weeks ago, or an average of 288 calls a day. Did I say 40,000 or 4,000? 4,000, right? Okay, good. I thought I way overstated that, but which is an increase. It's not that big, but it is an increase of 6.2%. And so we're still trending towards what we're talking about, more calls for service. The increase we're seeing through the end of the year, still on pace to set those record levels for this year. And then our Fire Academy 21-1 is graduating here in this next week. We look forward to having those folks finish that training up and come out in the field. They'll hit the fire stations the following week. And that'll be a really big help for us out there in the field as we move through the holiday season. So good news there. And finally, a big thank you to our members out there in the field providing the service that they do every day. It really is appreciated, and they're doing a phenomenal job. So, if there's any questions for me, that is the operations report.
Any questions of Chief Mitchell and his report? Seeing none, thank you for your report, Chief Mitchell. Moving on to Metro Fire's Local 522 representative, Mr. McGoldrick.
Good evening. I have nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to committee and delegate reports. Executive Committee, we have nothing to report. Communication Center, JPA, you again, Director or Chief Mitchell.
Back, didn't go far. Okay, in place of Chief Wagaman, I attended the special board meeting this past Tuesday, October 26th for the Dispatch Center. We discussed the executive director's position, the contracts, the rotation of that position, and an update to the executive director and nepotism policies. Happy to report in addition from Chief Bailey over there that we have 8 recruits that are graduating the Dispatch Academy tomorrow. So that'll help a lot with our staffing level challenges we continue to see at dispatch as well. So that's great news. And as a reference before, when Jeff was talking about our new CAD system that comes online hopefully this next year, we have a number of folks that will be starting the training on next Monday, November 1st. It's a key project for us during our cut over to the command point CAD. It includes some data file maintenance and things in the background to get us in this position to be able to do that. Our Metro Fire CAD coordinators will be participating in that training. It's a 40-hour training that goes over the next couple of months to be able to get them in a position to be ready to move all of that data from the old system to the new system. And then currently they're in the process of hiring 10 additional dispatch recruits with a slated academy in January of next year. And our next meeting for the JPA dispatch is November 9th at 9 a.m. And that's the end of my report.
All right. Chief, you mentioned that you covered that meeting for Chief Wagaman, and at this time I would like to acknowledge that he was involved in a serious accident, and I hope that he is recovering. God hope that he is not watching this meeting, but I wish the very best for his family and his health.
Thanks, President.
All right. Moving on to the California Fire and Rescue Training JPA, Chief Harms.
I will say that we had to take his phones away from him. Our last meeting of the training JPA was on October 26th, just this past week. We received an update on the classes and attendance. Attendance is still good and revenue is still exceeding the expenses there. We also went through a presentation on the dissolution Right now, there was a review and an audit that is going on the financials. We have learned that unfortunately, we are way behind. So we are just in the 2017 and 18 financials, and they had not been brought forward. We also learned that they are not following what we would term best practices. So we have a number of items that, working with our attorneys over there, that are outstanding, that will have to be cleaned up. One of the items actually is an outstanding item from 2011 when they dissolved the JPAs together with the city. That is still an outstanding item that has never been dealt with. So we're finding a number of things that are challenging for us, but we will work through those with our attorneys as we move forward with the dissolution. The one other thing is just the framework for a long-term plan for maintaining records is coming together, and the ability to take everything that is there and digitize it. So that there is, for people that have taken classes over the years, there will always be the opportunity to go back and receive a certificate or something if it was misplaced or lost during that time, which is so important for people that have gone through classes there. That ends my report for the training JPA.
Thank you very much, Chief Harms. Moving on to the Finance and Audit Committee, Director Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today we had our Finance and Audit Committee meeting this afternoon. It was our new CFO, Dave Tools, first one through, and I hope you enjoyed the relatively relaxed pace, because our next meeting will likely be held by the fireball that is Director Orzali. Want to thank Matt Goss from CalPERS for his presentation. And my simple primate brain usually does not reproduce as well, so I don't mean any disrespect to all the people that work so hard behind Mr. O'Toole on this meeting, but I'll do my best to give some of the highlights from the presentations. Our CERT fund is presently about 17% funded and continues to grow thanks to our annual contributions. We also received a presentation on some pension plan pre-funding options. Right now, we're looking at an unfunded liability of about $491 million in unfunded pension plan obligations. And so we did get a couple of options to address that given to us today. As of August 31, 2021, the 2 months for our first 2 months of our fiscal year, we are following our trends and expectations generally. And we do expect our reserves at the end of the year to be right around 14.1%. And we do not have a next meeting scheduled, but one will be set, and it will be announced when it's set. And with that, I'm done.
Thank you very much for your report. Or Director Wood, excuse me. Moving on to the Policy Committee, Director Gould.
No report.
No report. Moving on to the Redistricting Ad Hoc Committee, Ms. Sailors, or Director Sailors, excuse me.
Tonight, you heard that we had our public meeting, and that so at our next board meeting, we will present the maps, and hopefully we will adopt those as our new districts. That's my end of report.
All right. Moving on to board members. What's your pleasure, board members? Do we deal with questions and comments now, or take care of those after closed session? Anybody care? All right, let's go ahead and run those now.
Everybody go home.
Yeah, good enough.
Okay, board member questions and comments. I'll start with Director White.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to just congratulate both Jeff Fry and Chief Harms on their 5-year milestone. It's pretty significant. Also wanted to congratulate the captains that were recently promoted and the dispatchers that recently graduated. I did want to give my heartfelt thoughts and support for Chief Wagaman for a complete and speedy recovery. A lot of people don't know, but he's actually been with the district a lot longer than most people might know. But as a rookie firefighter, Chief Wagaman, as a 10-year-old, used to ride his bikes to fires, and he would read the numbers off of cylinders so I could log them in the book and recharge them with the air unit out of Station 106. So, you know, Chief Wagaman is somebody who not only has probably spent the better part of his life in the fire service, but probably longer than most people realize. And I just truly, truly wish him as complete and speedy a recovery as he possibly can have. And that kind of concludes my report. So thank you.
Excellent. Moving on to Director Jones.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to strongly echo Director White's comments. It's terrible luck, and I do wish Chief Wagaman as fast a recovery as possible. Acknowledging that is very, very important, as well as some of these successes. Let's get a positive thing going here. With 5 years for Chief Harms and Jeff Fry, congratulations to both of you. Please keep up the good work. Tonight, Jeff, your presentation on the strategic plan was excellent. We really, really appreciate all these efforts. And folks, we all know this takes hours and hours and hours of teamwork. And that's what we need to acknowledge. In addition to that, the county 2x2s, for the county 2x2 as well as the Rancho 2x2 have been very, very good successes. We keep building on that relationship, just as the chief said. That concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Jones. Moving on to Director Sheets.
Good evening. Thank you for all the presentations tonight. All the employees promoted to captain and all of the new recruits. Congratulations, Chief and Jeff, on your 5 years. And I too want to send my thoughts and my prayers for a speedy recovery for Chief Wagaman, and my thoughts and prayers for his family as well. And that's
Thank you. Director Wood.
Thank you, Mr. President. Like has been said, just wish all the best to Chief Wagaman and his family. And so when he does watch this sometime during his recovery, if there's anything he needs or his family needs, he can speak up and let us know. We're happy to help. Beyond that, I'm informed that it's National First Responders Day, so happy First Responders Day to everybody, and thank you to all who work for us. And with that, I'll end.
Thank you, Director Wood. Director Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dittos to all the comments about Chief Wagaman, especially a support for his wife and family as they journey with him through this process. I'd like the public to know that the Chief's pin diamond is actually a cubic zirconium, so they don't need to stress about that. And it's quite small. And then as we finish this evening, as we change seasons and we think about where we're headed, I'd just like to encourage all of us to take a few minutes and reflect on all of those people in our area that are far less fortunate than we are, and take a moment to reach out to them and make their life a little better, even if it's just for a day. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to Director Clark.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I will echo the comments of my fellow directors. And I would also like to add my prayers to the speedy recovery for Chief Wagaman. It's unfortunate, but he's got all the support that he needs from us and more. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Clark. Moving on to Director Sailors.
Everyone has said exactly what I wanted to say. So I will just say congratulations on your 5-year pin, Jeff and Chief Wagaman. We're all praying for you, and I'm just going to say great presentations, and I'm just gonna end right there and move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, I wanted to thank you for your service. 5 years has gone by quickly. And again, I consider your service to be exemplary. Thank you. I would also like to thank Director Mr. Fry for 5 years and congratulate him for work that is probably far greater than he had in his job description when he came to the district. And I thank you for everything that you do. And I know it's a lot for one person to absorb and then be able to speak eloquently on everything that's contained in that plan. So thank you again. Moving on to closed session. I hope that everybody is gone from absent from this room when we return. See you guys in closed session. All right, then. I'd like to call the regularly scheduled meeting back into session. And Council Laverick, can you please report out?
Yes, thank you, Director Kelly. In the closed session, the board met for conference with legal counsel for the 4 designated Government Code Section 910 claims set forth in the agenda. The board voted to reject and deny those claims and to refer the matters to the district's liability pool carrier for further handling. The board also met in closed session with respect to public employee performance evaluation for the fire chief. No reportable action was taken. Thank you. That's it.
All right. Thank you, sir. At this time, I will adjourn the meeting for lack of any other items to discuss. All right. Hopefully everybody has a nice weekend.
Happy Halloween.
All right. Take care, everybody.
All right.